Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a time before time itself was neatly sliced and diced into minutes, hours, and days. Imagine standing in a vast, open landscape with nothing but the sky above, a sky that never clocks out, never punches in, just endlessly spills stars, sun, moon, and clouds. You find yourself watching this grand celestial theater, but there's no script, no schedule, no handy calendar app buzzing in your pocket, because calendars haven't been invented yet. Time is chaos. It's raw, wild, and completely unmeasured. You probably wouldn't try to catch a bus here, or set up a Zoom meeting with someone on the other side of the valley, because there's no agreed upon when yet. And yet, something deep inside you stirs, a quiet, persistent urge to find patterns, to make sense of the swirling chaos around you. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know where you hurry listening from and what time it is there in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're here in the very early days of humanity's dance with time, when our ancestors lived intimately with the natural world, yet had no way to box and label the passing moments. Back then, time wasn't a neat line or a circle on paper. It was an ongoing experience, a flow of light and shadow, warmth and cold, hunger and plenty. Think about it. Without clocks or calendars, the concept of tomorrow was a vague hope, and yesterday, a fading memory. The start of the day was whenever the sun peeked over the horizon, and the end was when darkness swallowed the land whole. But even that was unpredictable, because weather could cloud the sky, and seasons shifted without fanfare. You might imagine this as a frustrating existence, but it's also deeply human. Our brains, wired to seek out order in disorder, began to notice rhythms, subtle, repeating patterns in the natural world that whispered secrets about time. The moon's slow crawl through its phases, the regular tilting of the sun's path across the sky, the changing length of shadows. These were clues, like breadcrumbs left by nature, waiting to be followed. One mainstream fact that really sets this stage is that ancient hunter-gatherers likely used the moon's cycles as their first informal calendars. The lunar month, about 29.5 days from one new moon to the next, was an obvious, visible pattern that anyone with a gaze to the night sky could track. It's no coincidence that many early words for heat month come from the word moon. This was the first step toward imposing a framework on the river of time, a way to predict when certain animals might migrate, or when plants would flower or fruit. In a world without supermarkets, such knowledge was crucial. But here is a quirky tidbit that might tickle your curiosity. Some of the earliest known artifacts hinting at timekeeping aren't written records or calendars as we know them, but rather mysterious notched bones, like the Ishango bone from Central Africa, dated to around 20,000 years ago. This slender bone, etched with a series of marks arranged in seemingly deliberate patterns, might represent counting or even an early lunar calendar. Imagine your ancient relative carefully carving marks into bone as a mnemonic device, perhaps to track the phases of the moon or the passing days between hunting trips. It's a reminder that the urge to order time is as old as humanity itself, etched deep into our history in subtle, almost secret ways. Yet, Despite these early attempts, it remains unclear if these primitive calendars were used consistently or universally, or if they were more like personal notes rather than communal timekeeping systems. Debate continues about whether different groups independently developed time tracking methods, or if these ideas spread through early human migrations and contacts. The archaeological record is tantalizingly incomplete, leaving room for many fascinating theories. Stepping back from the bones and stones, let's immerse yourself in the sensory world of those early humans. Picture the cool night air, crisp with the scent of earth and wood smoke, the soft rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze, and the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. Above, the stars blaze in their ancient constellations, unmoved by human concerns, yet offering a steady, reliable backdrop to the unfolding chaos below. You hear the crackle of a fire, the murmurs of a small group huddled together, exchanging stories, and perhaps trying to recall the last full moon or the turning of the seasons. It's a quiet moment of reflection, wonder, and tentative understanding. This longing to find order in the vast unknown isn't just about survival. It is a profound expression of human curiosity and imagination. Our ancestors weren't just passive observers. They were pattern seekers, story makers, and proto-scientists. They wove the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars into myths and rituals, embedding timekeeping into culture and spirituality. The sky was a giant, moving clock, but one that required interpretation and communal agreement. Here's a gentle joke for you, considering how far we've come. If these early sky watchers had a timekeeping app, it probably would have been the original moon dial. Zero battery life, no updates, but hey, it worked pretty well for thousands of years. And unlike our modern obsession with syncing every device, they didn't need Wi-Fi, just a clear sky and a patient eye. As you settle deeper into this thought, consider how chaotic time must have felt without this emerging structure. Imagine waking up not knowing when the day would end, or when the next season's rains might come. There was no Monday blues or Friday night excitement, only the soft, unpredictable pulse of nature's rhythms. But this uncertainty also gave way to profound attentiveness. Every shadow, every bird song, every scent on the wind carried meaning. In fact, some scholars argue that this early experience of time was more fluid and cyclical than our modern linear view. Time wasn't a marching soldier, but a dance partner, moving in loops and spirals. This cyclical view is still echoed in many indigenous cultures today, where time is experienced as interconnected cycles of life, death, and rebirth, rather than a relentless forward march. This raises an intriguing question. When did time shift from being an organic experience to a rigid measurement? Experts still ponder whether the invention of agriculture, with its need for planting and harvesting schedules, drove the push for more precise calendars, or if the social and religious demands of growing human settlements were the real catalysts. Was it the need to organize communal work, or the desire to mark sacred festivals that finally compelled us to carve time into stone and script? And so, the story of timekeeping begins not with clocks or calendars, but with a deep human longing to tame chaos, to find patterns in the shifting light of day and the mysterious dance of the moon. It's a story about curiosity and wonder, about the quiet moments when our ancestors looked up at the sky and said, "I think I see something here." The invention of the calendar wasn't just a technical breakthrough, it was a leap toward understanding our place in the cosmos, a first step in making the unpredictable predictable. As you lie here now, perhaps ready to drift into sleep, think about how this ancient urge still lives within you. The next time you glance at your watch or check the date, remember that this simple act is the result of thousands of years of human imagination, observation, and a persistent desire to bring order to the world's beautiful chaos. It's a legacy that connects you to those early sky watchers, the bone carvers, and the storytellers who first glimpsed the rhythm beneath the chaos and decided to mark it. So, as the night deepens and the stars wheel overhead, there's a kind of comfort in knowing that even before time was measured, you were part of the great human story, a story of wonder, curiosity, and the endless quest to understand the world around you. And perhaps, with that thought, your own time to rest has come. You find yourself standing under a vast, ink-black sky, the cool night air brushing softly against your skin. Above you, stars scatter like spilled salt across a dark cloth, each one twinkling with a quiet, ancient rhythm. The moon, a glowing crescent, hangs low, casting a gentle silver glow that softly illuminates the landscape. It's a scene as old as humanity itself, yet also as intimate and mysterious as a whispered secret. And it's here, beneath this celestial canopy, that the story of our earliest attempts to organize time begins. Imagine for a moment the first humans who looked up at the heavens, not with telescopes or smartphones, but with naked eyes, curious minds, and hearts attuned to the subtle shifts in light and shadow. They noticed the sun's journey across the sky, the waxing and waning of the moon, the glittering parade of stars that seemed to move in silent, predictable patterns. These weren't just pretty lights, they were markers, a cosmic clockwork that offered a way to make sense of the changing seasons, the cycles of growth and rest, life and death. You can almost hear the quiet murmurs of those ancient sky watchers, their voices blending with the crackling of a fire and the rustle of night winds through tall grasses. The air smells faintly of smoke and earth, familiar and grounding. They are trying to answer questions that have echoed through time. When will the rains return? How long until the harvest? When should the hunt begin? The stars and the moon became their guides, their calendar, a way to predict and prepare. One of the most fascinating facts about these early observers is that they didn't immediately think of time as the neat, uniform hours and minutes we rely on today. Instead, they saw time as cyclical and deeply connected to natural phenomena. The ancient Egyptians, for example, were among the first to track the heliacal rising of Sirius, the star that, just before dawn, would reappear on the eastern horizon and link it to the flooding of the Nile. This event was crucial for their agriculture, and so Sirius became an essential part of their calendar, marking the start of their new year. It's a brilliant example of how celestial observation served practical human needs, allowing societies to thrive. But what else is truly intriguing is how different cultures across the world independently developed their own ways of interpreting the skies. The Maya, for instance, created incredibly complex calendars that intertwined astronomy, mythology, and ritual in ways that still baffle modern researchers. Their long count calendar, which famously ended a cycle in 2012, was not just a system for measuring days, but a profound statement about time-S connection to cosmic cycles and human destiny. Meanwhile, in ancient China, meticulous records of lunar and solar movements were maintained, linking celestial events to earthly affairs, everything from weather patterns to imperial omens. And here's a quirky tidbit to spice up the night sky. Some ancient people believed that the stars themselves were living beings or spirits. The Aboriginal Australians, for example, saw the Milky Way as a celestial river, home to ancestral beings who shaped the world. In some African traditions, the Pleiades star cluster was seen as a group of women or children, their appearances and disappearances tied to seasonal changes. These interpretations remind us that calendars were never just about counting days. They were stories, myths, and connections to something larger than ourselves. Now, as you trace the slow arc of the moon with your gaze, you might wonder about the challenges these early sky watchers faced. Unlike the precise atomic clocks we have today, their calendars were based on observation and memory, sometimes prone to error or reinterpretation. The cycles of the moon and the sun don't align perfectly, which meant that purely lunar calendars would slowly drift out of sync with the seasons unless corrected. This led to the development of lunisolar calendars, complex systems that tried to harmonize the moon's phases with the solar year by adding extra months here and there. It's like trying to fit two mismatched puzzle pieces together, except those pieces are the very fabric of time itself. Experts still ponder exactly how these early civilizations managed such sophisticated adjustments without the tools we take for granted. Some scholars believe that priests or astronomer priests, those who combined sacred knowledge with scientific observation, kept detailed records and made decisions about when to add leap months or realign the calendar. Others suggest that communities relied on natural signs, like the blossoming of certain plants or animal migrations, to indicate when corrections were needed. Debate continues about how standardized these systems were and to what extent they were shared or independently developed across regions. You might find it amusing to think that even thousands of years ago, humans were wrestling with calendar quirks that still make us sigh today. Leap years, for example, feel like a minor annoyance now, but imagine trying to explain to someone in 2000 BCE why an extra month suddenly appears every few years. It's as if the universe itself is playing a subtle joke on us, reminding us that time, while seemingly constant, is actually a bit slippery and stubbornly resistant to perfect measurement. And speaking of slippery, consider this. The very act of observing the sky at night was no small feat. Without artificial light, ancient sky watchers had to work in near darkness, relying on their eyes' remarkable ability to adapt. The sounds around them, the hoot of an owl, the rustle of small creatures in the underbrush, the distant howl of a wolf, created a sensory backdrop that was both eerie and comforting. It was a time when the boundary between the earthly and the cosmic felt thinner, almost permeable. In fact, some archaeologists argue that early monuments like Stonehenge or the pyramids of Egypt were not just tombs or ceremonial centers, but sophisticated observatories designed to track celestial events. Standing stones aligned with solstices, shadow-casting structures marking equinoxes. These architectural marvels reveal a deep fascination and reverence for the heavens. Yet, there's still much debate about the exact purposes of these sites. Were they calendars, religious temples, or perhaps both? blending timekeeping with ritual in a way that made the passing of days something sacred. As you imagine yourself wandering through such ancient sites, you might catch the faint scent of limestone dust or the dry sun-baked earth beneath your feet. The slow turning of the sun and moon above dictates the rhythm of life below, and people shape their rituals and schedules around these celestial cues. It's a dance of light and shadow, a dialogue between human curiosity and the vastness of the cosmos. And here is a little joke to lighten the cosmic mood. Why did the ancient calendar get invited to every party? Because it always knew how to keep things on schedule, even if it couldn't quite agree on the date. But, jokes aside, the invention of the calendar was no small achievement. It marked a profound shift from living in a world where time was fluid and uncertain to one where days, months, and years could be counted, predicted, and planned for. This transformation laid the groundwork for agriculture, governance, religion, and eventually, science. By tracking the cycles of the sun, moon, and stars, ancient humans claimed a kind of mastery over time, imposing order on the chaos of changing seasons and unpredictable weather. Yet, the calendar also reveals something deeply human, our desire to connect with something larger than ourselves. Each celestial observation was a thread woven into a tapestry of meaning, legacy, and identity. The sky was not just a clock, but a storybook, a map, a guide to understanding our place in the universe. And even now, as you glance at your phone's calendar, or glance up at a streetlight instead of stars, that ancient impulse to find order, to mark the passage of time, to make sense of chaos, still pulses quietly within us. So, as the night deepens and the stars wheel slowly overhead, you carry with you the echoes of those first sky watchers, their patient gazes, their whispered calculations, their blending of myth and observation, all of it a testament to humanity, as unending quest to organize time not just as a measure of moments, but as a bridge to meaning and connection. And perhaps, as you drift toward sleep, you'll dream of those ancient skies where time was measured not in minutes or seconds, but in the shimmering dance of stars, a dance that continues, unhurried and eternal, inviting us to look up, to wonder, and to find our place in the vast, unfolding story of the cosmos. You find yourself standing on the soft, dew-kissed grass of an ancient field, the horizon stretching wide and inviting beneath a pale, awakening sky. The stars are fading, reluctantly surrendering their nightly vigil to the slow ascent of the sun. Somewhere just beyond your sight, the moon lingers, a silvery sentinel, quietly tracing its familiar arc across the heavens. It's in this delicate balance between night and day, moon and sun, that humanity's earliest attempts to make sense of time take shape. The story you're about to hear is one of gradual revelation and stubborn adaptation, a journey from the simple rhythms of the lunar cycle to the complex dance of solar and lunisolar calendars, systems born from necessity, curiosity, and a relentless desire to tame chaos. Imagine for a moment the first people who looked up at the night sky and noticed the moon's phases changing like clockwork. They didn't know about gravity or orbits, but they knew the moon was reliable in its transformations, from a thin crescent to a full, glowing orb, then waning back to darkness. It was a natural metronome. This lunar cycle, approximately 29.5 days, became the earliest form of calendar. It was simple, elegant, and intimate. A calendar you could see, feel, and almost touch in the rhythm of the night. But here's where things get interesting. While lunar calendars were accessible and intuitive, they didn't perfectly align with the solar year, the time the Earth takes to orbit the Sun, which is about 365.25 days. And this misalignment mattered, especially when your survival depends on knowing when to plant seeds or harvest crops. After all, if you think winter is coming in the middle of summer, well, your crops might not be so forgiving. So, humans began to wrestle with this problem. How do you honor the moon's reliable cycles while also respecting the sun's more extended, steady course? This is where calendars evolved into more sophisticated systems. Solar calendars that followed the sun's path, lunar calendars that tracked the moon's phases, and the more complex lunisolar calendars, which attempted to reconcile both. The solar calendar, in its purest form, is straightforward. It divides the year according to the sun's journey through the sky. The ancient Egyptians, for example, were among the first to use a solar calendar, marking the year by the heliacal rising of Sirius. The moment this bright star reappeared on the horizon just before dawn, this event closely coincided with the flooding of the Nile, a natural agricultural cue. So, their calendar wasn't just an abstract construct. It was deeply woven into the rhythms of their environment, guiding planting and harvest in a way that was crucial for survival. But the solar calendar had its quirks too. The full solar year isn't a neat, whole number of days, which means any calendar based solely on the sun's cycle needs some form of correction, like the leap year we still use today. The idea that an extra day every 4 years can keep us on track with the seasons might sound mundane, but it's a testament to human ingenuity and the painstaking effort to impose order on the messy reality of celestial mechanics. Meanwhile, many cultures continue to favor calendars based on the moon, because the moon's phases are so visible and tangible. But here's the catch. 12 lunar months add up to about 354 days, roughly 11 days shorter than the solar year. If you didn't adjust for this, your lunar calendar would drift, and eventually, your months would fall out of sync with the seasons. Imagine celebrating a winter harvest festival in the dead heat of summer. Not quite the same vibe, right? This conundrum gave birth to the lunisolar calendar, a fascinating hybrid that tries to have the best of both worlds by adding an extra or intercalary month every couple of years. These calendars kept lunar months aligned with the solar year. The Hebrew calendar, the traditional Chinese calendar, and the ancient Babylonian calendar all used this system. The intercalary month might seem like a bit of a cheat, but really, it's a clever example of how humans can adapt and refine their tools to meet practical needs. Here, as a quirky tidbit for you, the Babylonian calendar was so influential that it indirectly shaped the way we measure time even today. Their system divided the day into 24 hours, and each hour into 60 minutes. Yes, the very 60-based system we use now. This sexagesimal system's roots go back over 4,000 years. So, the next time you're complaining about how long an hour feels, just remember, it's an ancient legacy, and they probably had no idea it would one day become the basis for your Netflix binge sessions. But even with all this ingenious adaptation, calendars were never perfect. Different cultures prioritized different celestial events, seasons, or religious observances, which means there was never a universal agreement on how to measure time, and that is where scholarly debates bubble up. experts still ponder why some societies embraced solar calendars over lunar or lunisolar ones. Was it purely practical, or did spiritual beliefs and cultural identity play a role? Debate continues about why some civilizations resisted changing their calendars despite clear astronomical evidence suggesting they should. Was it stubbornness, tradition, or something more profound? You notice how these calendars are not just about tracking days. They're a reflection of human priorities and worldviews. The choice to follow the sun, the moon, or both reveals what a society values most, be it agricultural necessity, religious observance, or social cohesion. In many ways, the calendar becomes a cultural fingerprint, a way for communities to say, this is who we are, and this is how we relate to the cosmos. Picture the farmers in ancient Mesopotamia, eyes fixed on the waxing moon, using their lunisolar calendar to decide when to sow barley, or the Egyptian priests timing rituals with the sunrise of Sirius. The calendar was a living tool, a bridge between the unpredictable natural world and the human need for predictability and control. And yet, the complexity of these systems also hints at something deeply human, the desire not just to survive, but to understand and impose meaning on the passage of time. The effort to reconcile lunar months with the solar year is almost like a metaphor for our broader quest to find harmony in life's contradictions. We want the comfort of routine, but also the flexibility to adapt. We seek clarity, but acknowledge complexity. There's a subtle beauty in this, isn't there? The calendar isn't just a dry, mechanical device. It's a story etched across millennia, a testament to human curiosity and resilience. It's the whisper of ancient skies telling us, look, there is order here. Even if it's imperfect, even if it's messy, it's ours. And in that imperfect order, you find empowerment. You realize that time, as much as it governs us, is also shaped by us. As you linger in this quiet moment, you might even catch yourself marveling at how these ancient systems still echo in your daily life. The very structure of your week, your month, your year, owes something to those early sky watchers. And perhaps, just perhaps, when you glance up at the moon tonight, you will feel a little closer to those first humans who looked up with wonder and began to chart the invisible rhythms that shape our existence. So, next time you check your calendar app or grumble about daylight saving time, remember, you're part of a long tradition, a tradition that started with simple lunar observations and grew into intricate solar and lunisolar systems, all designed to wrest meaning from the vast, chaotic cosmos. It's a story of light, shadow, cycles, and human ingenuity. A story that continues to unfold with every passing day. And maybe that's enough to help you drift a little more peacefully into sleep tonight, wrapped in the comforting thought that time, though complex and sometimes baffling, is ultimately a tapestry woven by countless hands reaching toward the stars. You find yourself stepping softly into a quiet village square, where the slow rhythm of life is shaped not just by the sun's travel across the sky, but by an invisible thread weaving everyone's days together. A calendar. It's a framework, a silent orchestrator of social choreography, and a keeper of traditions that have been passed down across countless generations. The calendar, you realize, isn't just a tool for counting days. It's a living, breathing part of culture, quietly sculpting how communities grow, worship, and govern themselves. Imagine the hum of daily market chatter mingling with the distant toll of a temple bell, each sound marking a moment in time, a moment that's been carefully set aside by the collective agreement of a calendar system. It's easy to forget that these systems didn't just pop into existence fully formed. Instead, they evolved alongside the very societies that depended on them, deeply intertwined with social hierarchies, religious rites, and political power. Calendars have been the invisible architecture of civilization, shaping not only when people work or rest, but how they understand their place in the cosmos and in each other's lives. Take, for instance, the ancient Egyptians. Their calendar was inseparable from the flooding of the Nile, a natural event that determined the agricultural year. The annual inundation was so critical that their 365-day calendar was designed to predict it, ensuring that planting and harvesting could be timed just right. This wasn't just a practical matter, it was a sacred dance with the river's rhythms, a ritual embedded in the very heartbeat of Egyptian society. The priests, who were also astronomers, held immense influence because they controlled this knowledge. The calendar became a symbol of order in a world that could otherwise feel dangerously unpredictable. You can almost hear the murmured prayers echoing in stone temples, asking for the river's generosity, all synchronized by the calendar's careful tally. But the story of calendars influencing culture isn't unique to Egypt. Across the world, from the Mayan pyramids in the jungles of Central America to the ancient Chinese imperial courts, calendars were deeply woven into the fabric of society. The Maya, for example, crafted intricate calendars that blended astronomical precision with spiritual symbolism. Their long count calendar wasn't just about marking time, it was a cosmic narrative, a way to link human history with celestial cycles. Festivals, wars, and even royal successions were planned according to these calendrical cycles. To the Maya, each day had its own personality and power, a concept that might make modern calendars feel a bit bland by comparison. Here's a quirky tidbit you might enjoy. The French revolutionaries, in their zeal to remake society, invented the French Republican calendar. It was designed to break free from the old religious and royal traditions by dividing the year into 12 months of 30 days each, with 5 or 6 extra days tacked on at the end. Each month was named after natural features, like Thermidor for heat or Fructidor for fruit, to celebrate nature's bounty. Weeks were replaced by 10-day decades, which, unsurprisingly, made weekend plans very confusing. The calendar was an attempt to reorder society itself through timekeeping, but it was short-lived, proving that even the best-laid plans to control chaos can run into the stubbornness of human habit. You can almost picture a Parisian trying to explain to their friend why their weekend now lasts 9 days, and how that's supposed to feel more rational. Spoiler, it didn't catch on. Calendars also anchored religious rituals, connecting human belief systems to celestial events. The Jewish calendar, for example, is lunisolar, meaning it tracks both the moon's phases and the solar year. This dual tracking ensures that festivals like Passover always fall in spring, anchoring spiritual observance to seasonal cycles. The calendar, in this way, becomes a sacred map, guiding communities through a year of storytelling, remembrance, and renewal. It is a beautiful example of how calendars don't just organize days, but also embed collective memory and identity into the passage of time. Governance, too, has leaned heavily on calendars. The ability to declare holidays, tax deadlines, or agricultural seasons gave rulers a subtle yet powerful tool to shape society. The Roman calendar, with its famous Julian reform introduced by Julius Caesar, was as much about political control as it was about astronomy. By aligning the calendar more closely with the solar year, Caesar sought to bring order to Rome's chaotic timekeeping, which had become a political mess. The calendar was a statement. Here is order. Here is control. Here is the power of the state over the unpredictable tides of nature and human whim. And if you think that sounds a little like politicians today trying to schedule their own reforms, well, history does have a sense of humor. Now, it is important to note that not everyone agrees on why certain calendars evolved the way they did, or how exactly they impacted social structures. Experts still ponder whether some calendars were primarily pragmatic tools for agriculture, or if they were originally conceived as spiritual instruments and only later adapted for civil use. Debate continues about why some cultures embraced lunisolar systems while others stuck strictly to solar or lunar calendars. Was it geography, religious worldview, social complexity? The mystery remains, inviting us to wonder about the interplay between human needs and cosmic observation. You might ask yourself, why did humans feel such an urgent need to impose these systems on something as fluid and intangible as time? The answer, as you probably sense by now, is deeply human. Calendars are not just about measuring time. They're about making sense of chaos, about weaving a thread of continuity through the ever-shifting tapestry of life. They give us rituals to gather around, markers to celebrate or mourn by, and a shared language to talk about past and future. In essence, calendars are stories we tell ourselves about order, legacy, and connection. If you lean in closer, you might hear the subtle whisper of these stories in the way we still cling to certain holidays, even when their original meanings have faded. The Gregorian calendar, which most of the world uses today, is itself a legacy of earlier reforms layered over centuries. It's a patchwork of sacred days, secular observances, and political decisions, kind of like a quilt made from time itself. And just like any quilt, it's warm because of the hands that stitched it together, the people who lived by it, and the memories it holds. Speaking of memories, here's a fun little fact. In medieval Europe, the start of the new year wasn't always January 1st. In some places, the year began on March 25th, the Feast of the Annunciation, linking the calendar directly to religious belief. So, if you were born in February back then, your birthday might have been officially recorded as part of the previous year. Imagine explaining that to your friends today. Sorry, I'm actually a year older than my driver's license says. Blame the church calendar. It is a reminder that calendars are as much about culture and power as they are about counting days. As you settle deeper into this realization, you notice how calendars have become cultural legacies, repositories of collective identity. They carry echoes of ancient sky watchers who traced the sun and moon, of priests who guarded sacred knowledge, of rulers who sought to tame time for their own ends. And through all this, the human desire for order, perhaps even control, shines like a quiet star in the night sky, guiding civilizations through the ebb and flow of history. So next time you glance at your smartphone's calendar app or flip through a paper planner, pause for a moment. Behind those neat little boxes, filled with appointments and reminders, lies a profound human story. A story of curiosity, ambition, faith, and yes, a little bit of stubbornness. The calendar is not just a tool, it's a bridge connecting you to thousands of years of human experience, a testament to our enduring quest to find meaning in the chaos of time. And if you ever feel a bit overwhelmed by the relentless march of days, remember that calendars, for all their structure, are ultimately human-made. They remind us that while time flows on, we have the power to shape how we live within it, through rituals, stories, and the simple act of marking moments that matter. Now, as your eyes grow heavy and your mind drifts towards dreams, imagine the gentle turning of ancient wheels, the soft scratching of quills, marking dates on parchment, the quiet gathering of people around fires and temples, all united by the invisible pulse of calendars shaping their lives. It's a legacy that continues to shape ours, quietly reminding us that amidst the vast cosmos, our shared human story is measured not just in seconds or days, but in connection and meaning. You find yourself stepping into the sun-drenched streets of ancient Rome, the air thick with the mingled scents of baked bread, fresh-cut wood, and the ever-present hint of burning oil lamps. The chatter of merchants, the clatter of sandals on stone, and the distant murmur of senators debating in the forum create a lively, almost palpable atmosphere. It's the middle of the 1st century, BCE, and Rome is not just an empire of soldiers and senators, but a sprawling, intricate mosaic of cultures, languages, and most importantly, for our journey, a patchwork of ways to mark time. Now, imagine the chaos of trying to coordinate everything from grain shipments to military campaigns when every province, every city, even every neighborhood seems to follow its own calendar. It's here that you witness the Roman reform of time itself, a human attempt to tame the wild beast of days and months into a coherent, manageable system. Welcome to the Julian calendar. Before Julius Caesar stepped onto this stage, the Roman calendar was a bit like a toddler's drawing. Ambitious but confusing, the traditional Roman calendar, derived from earlier lunar and agricultural systems, was a mess of months that didn't quite add up. It had 355 days, which is roughly 10 days short of a solar year. To patch this gap, priests would occasionally insert an extra month here or there, a sort of bureaucratic, oops, we lost track fix. But these intercalations were often applied haphazardly, influenced by political maneuvering rather than astronomical precision. You can almost hear the sighs of farmers and tax collectors trying to figure out when the next planting season or tax deadline would actually fall. Spoiler alert, this system was ripe for reform. So, enter Julius Caesar, who, in 46 BCE, decided enough was enough. You might picture him not just as a military genius or political mastermind, but also as a proto-scientist, keenly aware that Rome needed a standard, predictable way to measure time. After all, an empire spanning continents can't afford to have its people confused about what day it is, or worse, accidentally miss a festival or tax payment because the calendar says one thing, but the sun says another. Caesar's solution, the Julian calendar, which borrowed heavily from the Egyptian solar calendar, a system known for its remarkable accuracy. The Julian calendar stretched the year to 365 days, with an extra day added every 4 years, the famous leap year, to keep the calendar aligned with the Earth's orbit around the Sun. This was a monumental leap towards standardizing time measurement, a framework designed to bring order to chaos. Imagine the relief of Roman officials and ordinary citizens alike, waking up to a calendar that made sense, that reliably predicted the seasons and festivals, and that could be used across the vast empire. But the Julian reform was not just about science and practicality. It was deeply political. You see, timekeeping wasn't neutral. By imposing a standardized calendar, Caesar was also asserting control over the very fabric of daily life, and, symbolically, over the empire itself. The calendar became a tool of unity, a way to weave together diverse peoples under one temporal umbrella. He even renamed Quintilius, the 5th month, to July in his own honor. Because what's a reform without a little ego baked in? After all, if you're going to reorganize the entire concept of time, you might as well get your name on it. Here, as a quirky tidbit that you might not expect, the original Julian calendar actually miscalculated the length of the solar year by about 11 minutes. That tiny error might seem negligible, but over centuries, it caused the calendar dates to drift noticeably from the actual seasons. By the 16th century, that drift had thrown the date of the spring equinox off by about 10 days, which led to the introduction of the Gregorian calendar. So, the Julian calendar was a giant leap forward, but it wasn't perfect. Proof that even our best attempts to order time are subject to the stubborn quirks of the cosmos. Now, let yourself wander for a moment through the marble halls of the Roman Senate, where debates about the calendar were as heated as those about taxes or military campaigns. The reform wasn't universally welcomed. Some traditionalists grumbled that meddling with the calendar offended the gods or disrupted sacred rituals. Others worried about the political implications. Standardizing time was also centralizing power, a subtle but profound shift in control. It's a reminder that calendars have always been more than just practical tools. They are also symbols of authority and identity. Experts still ponder whether Caesar's motivations were more about genuine scientific curiosity or clever political strategy, or perhaps a blend of both. It's a tantalizing question because it reveals how intertwined our systems of timekeeping are with human ambition and the exercise of power. After all, when you control time, you control the rhythm of society. Imagine the practical effects of this reform. As you walk through a Roman marketplace, merchants can now schedule shipments and markets with confidence. Farmers plan their sowing and harvesting to the sun, not the whims of priests or politicians. Soldiers march off to distant provinces, knowing precisely when to expect orders or reinforcements. The calendar isn't just a set of numbers. It's the pulse of the empire, a shared heartbeat that synchronizes millions of lives. And yet, even with this seemingly perfect system, the Julian calendar introduced new complexities. For instance, the leap year rule, while elegant, was misunderstood for centuries. Early Roman priests, tasked with maintaining the calendar, sometimes added leap days every 3 years instead of every 4, resulting in further confusion. It's a gentle reminder that humans, with all their wisdom, often stumble over the details when trying to impose order on the natural world. You might chuckle to yourself, imagining a Roman official scratching his head over a calendar that kept shifting beneath his feet, wondering if the gods were playing a cosmic joke. And in a way, they were, because time, no matter how carefully measured, always has a slippery quality, resisting our attempts to cage it in neat boxes. Let us pause for a sensory moment. Picture the soft glow of a Roman oil lamp illuminating a scroll where the new Julian calendar is painstakingly inscribed. The papyrus smells faintly of reed and ink, and the script curves elegantly across the page. Each letter a promise of order, a step towards mastering the chaos of days. You feel the weight of history in that quiet moment, the slow but steady progress of human understanding. Today, of course, the Julian calendar is mostly a historical curiosity, replaced by the Gregorian system that fine-tuned Caesar's vision, but its legacy endures. The months we use, the concept of a 365-day year with leap years, all trace back to this bold reform. It's a testament to the human desire not just to mark time, but to shape it, to bring meaning and predictability to the ceaseless flow of existence. And here, as a little ironic twist, while the Julian calendar was designed to unify and standardize, it also contributed to a kind of temporal imperialism. As Rome expanded, so did its calendar, overlaying local timekeeping traditions with a Roman framework. This imposition was both practical and cultural, a subtle reminder that measuring time is never just about the stars or the sun. It is also about identity, power, and legacy. So, as you settle back into the quiet of your own room, perhaps with a soft blanket and the gentle hum of the night outside, consider the complexity behind the simple dates on your calendar. Each day is a thread in a tapestry woven over millennia, shaped by priests, emperors, farmers, and dreamers alike. The Julian reform was a pivotal chapter, a moment when humanity took a decisive step towards mastering the chaos of time, even if that mastery was always, in a sense, an ongoing conversation between us and the cosmos. And if you ever find yourself frustrated by daylight saving time or puzzled by leap years, remember that these quirks are echoes of that ancient effort to carve order from the swirling dance of planets and seasons. Timekeeping is a human story as much as a cosmic one, a testament to our endless curiosity and our unyielding hope that somehow we can make sense of the chaos swirling around us. Now, close your eyes and imagine the steady cadence of the Julian calendar taking softly through the centuries, a quiet rhythm that shaped empires and everyday lives alike. It's a gentle reminder that while the universe may be vast and chaotic, we humans have always sought to find our place within it, one day, 1 month, 1 leap year at a time. You find yourself drifting gently back to the late 16th century, a time when the scent of candle wax mingles with parchment and ink, and the world is beginning to stir from the slow, methodical rhythms of medieval life. Imagine the soft rustling of robes as scholars and clerics pore over celestial charts and dusty tomes, trying to make sense of a curious problem that had been quietly gnawing at the fabric of timekeeping for centuries. This problem? Calendar drift, the subtle, almost invisible slippage of days that, over long periods, caused the calendar to fall out of sync with the Earth's actual journey around the sun. Now, calendar drift might sound like something only a bunch of astronomy geeks or monastery monks would care about, but its implications were vast and very real. The calendar was the backbone of society, marking religious festivals, agricultural seasons and civic duties. When the calendar no longer matched the heavens, confusion reigned. Imagine celebrating Easter in the dead of winter, or planting crops when the soil was still frozen. Not exactly ideal, right? So, how did humanity address this temporal wobble that threatened to unravel the order they so carefully cultivated? Enter Pope Gregory XIII, whose name would soon be immortalized, not just in history books, but in the very calendar we still use today. In 1582, with a blend of scientific advice and political will, he introduced what we now call the Gregorian calendar. This wasn't just a simple tweak. It was a profound recalibration of time itself. To understand the issue, you have to grasp the nature of the solar year, the time it takes Earth to complete one orbit around the Sun. It's approximately 365.2422 days, a number that stubbornly refuses to fit neatly into whole days. The Julian calendar, established by Julius Caesar over 1600 years earlier, had assumed a year length of exactly 365.25 days, adding a leap day every 4 years to compensate. But even that small difference, about 11 minutes per year, accumulated, causing the calendar to drift about 10 days out of alignment by the 16th century. You can almost hear the collective sighs of astronomers and church officials realizing that the date of the spring equinox, which was critical for determining Easter, was slipping further from its intended celestial marker. It was as though the universe was playing a slow joke on humanity. As best efforts to impose order, the Gregorian reform was clever and meticulous. To correct the accumulated error, October 4th, 1582, was immediately followed by October 15th. That's right, 10 days simply vanished from the calendar. Can you imagine the conversations about that? Hey, did you hear? We just skipped 10 days. So, happy October 15th. It's the kind of temporal magic trick that would make even the most seasoned illusionist jealous. But the reform didn't stop at a one-time fix. To prevent future drift, the Gregorian calendar refined the leap year rule. Instead of adding a leap day every 4 years without exception, it introduced a subtle exception. Years divisible by 100 would not be leap years unless they were also divisible by 400. So, 1600 was a leap year, but 1700, 1800, and 1900 were not. This clever adjustment brought the calendar year much closer to the true solar year, reducing the error to just about 26 seconds per year. That's like the tiniest whisper of time slipping past, barely noticeable, but profoundly important over centuries. Here's a quirky little tidbit for you. The Gregorian calendar's introduction wasn't a universally smooth transition. In fact, many countries held on to the old Julian calendar for decades, or even centuries afterward. Some Eastern Orthodox churches still use the Julian calendar for liturgical purposes today, meaning their Christmas celebrations fall on January 7th of the Gregorian calendar. So, if you've ever wondered why some people celebrate the holidays late, now you know. It's a charming legacy of calendar drift and reform. The reform also sparked some confusion and resistance. People worried about whether their birthdays or rents still existed after the skipped days. There were even rumors of people demanding lost wages because their pay period was technically shorter, and you thought your paycheck was complicated. The Gregorian calendar's adoption also highlights the fascinating intersection of science, religion, and politics. The Pope's involvement wasn't merely spiritual. It was a powerful assertion that controlling the measurement of time meant controlling the rhythms of society itself. It remains unclear if the calendar reform S religious motivations or the desire for political unity weighed more heavily in the decision, but the result was a unifying temporal framework that would gradually spread across the globe. Experts still ponder why some Protestant and Orthodox countries were so reluctant to adopt the Gregorian calendar. Was it purely religious skepticism, or did it reflect deeper cultural and political divides? The debate continues, reflecting how even something as seemingly neutral as the calendar can carry profound meaning and identity. Now, as you imagine the ripple effects of this adjustment, picture a farmer in 16th century Italy stepping outside at dawn, the crisp morning air tinged with the scent of earth and dew. For him, the calendar reform meant more than abstract numbers. It was a promise that the seasons would align once again with the planting and harvesting cycles that sustained his family. For the church, it meant restoring the sacred timing of festivals and ceremonies, anchoring spiritual life in cosmic order. The Gregorian calendar, in its quiet revolution, reveals something deeply human, our persistent need to impose order on the chaos of nature and time. It's a testament to our curiosity and ingenuity, blending observation with belief, science with tradition. And here's a fun modern aside. Despite all the precision, our calendar still doesn't perfectly match Earth's orbit. We still need leap seconds every now and then to keep atomic clocks aligned with the wobbling rotation of our planet. So even now, the dance of timekeeping continues. A reminder that while we can strive for order, nature always keeps a bit of mystery. As the night deepens and you feel your eyelids growing heavy, consider this. The Gregorian calendar is more than just a tool for marking days. It is a symbol of humanity, its ongoing dialogue with time, a conversation that began when ancient sky watchers first lifted their eyes to the heavens and continues every moment you glance at your watch or phone. In that gentle ticking, there's a legacy of hope and perseverance. The calendar drift wasn't just a problem to solve. It was an invitation to refine our understanding, to adapt and to connect across generations. It's the story of how we learn to dance with time, not as passive observers, but as active participants shaping our shared experience. So next time you look at a calendar, let yourself marvel at the centuries of thought, debate, and subtle adjustments that brought it to you. And remember, while the universe spins on its indifferent course, we craft our days, not just to keep track of time, but to find meaning, to celebrate, and to live fully within the unfolding mystery. Now, as you settle deeper into your pillow, the steady rhythm of your breath syncing with the quiet pulse of history, let the Gregorian adjustment lull you with its gentle reminder. Time is a human story, ever evolving, ever intricate, and infinitely fascinating. And with that thought, perhaps it's time to drift off, carried by the soft hum of centuries, ticking softly into the night. You find yourself drifting gently across the vast tapestry of human history, where time itself is not just measured, but felt, shaped, and woven into the very fabric of culture. As you settle into this tranquil exploration, you notice how different civilizations like masterful storytellers each crafted their own calendars, a kind of cosmic script designed to make sense of the swirling chaos overhead. It's almost like a universal game of connect the dots, except the dots are stars, seasons, and cycles, and the picture they reveal is as varied as the cultures that drew them. Let's begin this voyage with the Maya, whose calendar system is as mesmerizing as a softly flickering candle in a dark room. You imagine standing in the dense jungles of Central America, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and flowering ceiba trees, as you watch ancient priests gaze skyward. The Maya didn't just track days. They mapped out an intricate dance of time involving multiple cycles overlapping like delicate lace. The Tzolk'in, a 260-day ritual calendar, ticked alongside the Hab, a 365-day solar calendar, weaving together sacred ceremonies and agricultural rhythms. You might think a 260-day calendar sounds oddly specific, almost like a cosmic inside joke, but it actually reflects a complex understanding of Venus' cycles, the agricultural seasons, and spiritual numerology, all wrapped up in a neat temporal package. And here, a quirky tidbit to tuck under your pillow. The Maya long count calendar famously predicted a significant cycle ending on December 21st, 2012, which modern pop culture wildly interpreted as a doomsday prophecy. Spoiler alert, the world didn't end. Instead, the Maya were marking the completion of a Baktun, a long period of about 394 years, and preparing to start a new cycle. It's a beautiful reminder that calendars are less about apocalypse and more about renewal, a gentle nudge to see time as a spiral rather than a straight line. But of course, not everyone agrees on the full meaning of these cycles. Scholars still debate whether the Tzolk'in was primarily a religious calendar, or if it also encoded astronomical observations we haven't fully decoded yet. This uncertainty adds a layer of mystery, inviting you to wonder how much of time's story remains a secret waiting quietly in the stars and ruins. Now, let's glide softly eastward across the vast expanse of Asia, where the Chinese calendar softly hums with a rhythm that's both lunar and solar, like a delicate duet between moonlight and sunlight. Close your eyes and hear the gentle rustle of bamboo leaves, the faint fragrance of plum blossoms, as you imagine the ancient scholars who, around 1000 BCE, began harmonizing the cycles of the moon with the solar year. The Chinese calendar, still used today for festivals and astrology, is lunisolar. It counts months by the moon, but adjusts with leap months to stay in tune with the solar cycle. Think of it as a cosmic dance that occasionally steps on its own toes, but always finds the beat again. Each year is also marked by one of 12 animals in the zodiac, from the clever rat to the steadfast ox, bringing a playful personality to the passage of time. It's like each year wears a costume, inviting people to reflect on traits and fortunes, a charming blend of astronomy and folklore. Imagine the vibrant celebrations of Chinese New Year, where red lanterns glow warmly, fireworks sparkle like captured stars, and families gather to honor time's cyclical gift. There's a deep connection here, not just to dates on a page, but to the ebb and flow of nature and destiny. But here's a little wrinkle. The exact origins of the Chinese calendar's animal cycle remain a subject of scholarly teasing. Some suggest it evolved from earlier totemic systems. Others think it was borrowed and adapted from neighboring cultures. Debate continues about why these particular 12 animals were chosen and what they symbolized originally. It's a delightful puzzle that invites you to peer deeper into how people imprint meaning onto time. And then, as you drift westward across deserts shimmering with heat, you encounter the Islamic calendar, a system that, unlike the Mayas or Chinese, refuses to be anchored by the solar year. The Islamic calendar is purely lunar, consisting of 12 months that cycle through the seasons every 33 years or so. Imagine the soft murmur of prayers at dawn, the rich aroma of spices wafting through bustling markets, and the gentle glow of lanterns during Ramadan. The calendar's shifting nature means that holy months like Ramadan travel through the seasons, sometimes falling in the heat of summer, other times in the cool embrace of winter. This cycle underscores a spiritual philosophy where time is fluid, reminding the faithful to adapt and find meaning in each moment, regardless of the season. Unlike the solar calendars that try to pin time down, the Islamic calendar dances freely, emphasizing the passage of months and religious observances over agricultural alignment. It's a calendar that breathes with the lunar rhythm, a poetic testament to how time can be both structured and flexible. Here's a fascinating nugget. The Islamic calendar. Its months are determined by the actual sighting of the new moon, a practice that can vary by location and weather, leading to differences in when months begin across communities. So, in a way, the calendar is a living, breathing entity shaped by human observation and nature's whims, rather than fixed astronomical calculations. It's time as a shared experience, not just a mathematical certainty. Yet, this also opens up debates among scholars and religious authorities about standardizing the calendar versus preserving local moon sighting traditions. It remains unclear whether a unified global calendar could ever satisfy the spiritual and cultural nuances involved. This tension highlights how calendars are not just about counting days, they're about identity, belief, and connection. As you drift gently through these diverse systems, you begin to sense a common thread. Calendars are not merely practical tools, but narratives, stories woven by people trying to hold the ever-slipping present in their hands. They are languages of time, speaking in symbols, cycles, and ceremonies that reveal how deeply humans crave order and meaning amid the universe's vast unpredictability. You might chuckle softly to yourself, thinking how modern life, with its digital clocks and endless notifications, has streamlined time into neat, uniform units: hours, minutes, seconds. Yet behind this apparent simplicity lies a complex inheritance of ideas, rituals, and debates stretching back millennia. It's as if we were all still trying to decode an ancient riddle: how to measure existence without losing its magic. Imagine, for a moment, the sounds accompanying each calendar system: the rhythmic beating of drums during Mayan ceremonies, the soft whisper of calligraphy brushes painting zodiac animals on silk, the melodic chants marking the start of an Islamic month. These sensory details ground the abstract concept of time in human experience, reminding you that calendars are as much about culture and spirit as they are about astronomy. And here's a gentle joke to ease you deeper into this contemplation. If the Maya, Chinese, and Islamic calendars all walked into a bar, who would order the first round? Probably the Islamic calendar, since it's the only one that doesn't mind if the year shifts unpredictably. Talk about a laid-back timekeeper. Meanwhile, the Maya might be busy recalculating the next Baktun, and the Chinese would be deciding which zodiac animal to dress up as next year. Time, it seems, has a sense of humor as well. As the night deepens and your eyelids grow heavier, you realize that calendars, in their beautiful diversity, teach you a profound lesson: that time is not a fixed ruler, but a mosaic crafted by human hands. Each culture's approach reflects its environment, its beliefs, and its dreams. Whether tracking the cycles of Venus, harmonizing lunar and solar rhythms, or following the moon's delicate crescent, these systems show how humanity has continuously sought to find order in the cosmic dance. And in this quest, you find a quiet comfort, a connection to countless generations who, like you, looked up to the sky and whispered, "How do we make sense of this?" The answer, it seems, lies not in a single universal calendar, but in the rich tapestry of calendars around the world, each a testament to our shared desire to understand time's elusive flow. So, as you nestle deeper into your pillow's embrace, the gentle tick of the universe's many clocks lulls you toward sleep. You carry with you the wonder of these calendars, not just as systems of numbers and dates, but as living stories, inviting you to see time not as a chain, but as a dance, forever inviting you to join in. The night is full of possibilities, and in the quiet, you feel time's embrace, complex, mysterious, and endlessly enchanting. You find yourself standing at the crossroads of time, where the ancient whispers of stone circles and sun-drenched observatories blend seamlessly with the soft hum of digital clocks and the faint, almost imperceptible tick of atomic vibrations. It is a peculiar sensation, like tracing the invisible threads that connect the distant past to the pulse of our modern lives. The journey from those earliest attempts to chart the skies to the synchronized precision of today's timekeeping technologies is not just a tale of scientific progress. It's a testament to humanity's undying urge to weave order from chaos to tame the relentless flow of time, so it might serve us instead of overwhelm us. Imagine the ancient astronomers, those patient sky watchers who, thousands of years ago, tilted their heads toward the horizon, watching the sun's slow crawl, the moon's phases unfolding like a silent movie, and the stars' fixed dance in the velvet night. Their calendars were born out of necessity, sure, but also out of reverence, a way to anchor the unpredictability of seasons, harvests, and rituals. Fast forward to now, and you're surrounded by devices that tick with an accuracy so precise it boggles the mind. Yet beneath this technological marvel beats the same human heart, still longing for predictability in a world that often feels anything but. You notice the subtle glow of your smartphone screen, displaying the date and time in crisp numerals, a far cry from the carved stones and shadow-casting gnomons of yore. And yet, this seemingly simple display is a direct descendant of those ancient inventions. The Gregorian calendar you rely on each day, the very framework that divides your year into months and weeks, is itself a product of centuries of refinement, political intrigue, and scholarly debate. It is fascinating to realize that what feels so natural and fixed to you is actually the outcome of countless human decisions, deliberate, sometimes messy, and often controversial. For instance, consider the leap year, that curious extra day inserted every 4 years. It's a mainstream fact now, a little quirk we accept without much thought, but it is a brilliant fix devised to reconcile our calendar with the Earth's actual orbit around the Sun, which takes about 365 to 422 days. Not a perfect 365. This tiny fraction, multiplied over years, would throw our sense of time off by weeks, if left uncorrected. Yet, this fix wasn't always so straightforward. The Julian calendar introduced by Julius Caesar was a bold step forward, but still imperfect. causing the calendar to drift slowly out of sync with the seasons. It wasn't until Pope Gregory III's reform in 1582 that the calendar we use today finally gained a tighter grip on the solar year. You could say it was the ultimate cosmic patch update. But here, as a quirky tidbit that might tickle your curiosity, did you know that some cultures have calendars that defy our usual expectations by including months of varying lengths or even extra months? The Hebrew calendar, for example, is lunisolar. It tracks both the moon's phases and the sun's cycle, adding a whole extra month every few years to stay in line with the seasons. This dance between lunar and solar time is a perfect example of the complexity and creativity humans have employed to impose order on the inherently messy universe. It's like trying to fit an ocean tide into the neat boxes of a planner. An impossible task, but a fascinating attempt nonetheless. As you let that sink in, you might wonder about the scholarly debates surrounding these systems. Experts still ponder why certain civilizations favored lunar calendars, while others leaned towards solar or lunisolar systems. Some argue it was a matter of religious or agricultural priorities. Others suggest it was simply the result of geographical and cultural influences. The truth, as often, is probably a complex blend of these factors. This uncertainty doesn't diminish our understanding. It enriches it, reminding us that timekeeping is as much a social and cultural invention as a scientific one. Bringing this legacy into the modern era, you begin to notice how our quest for order has evolved into a dazzling array of technologies. The invention of the mechanical clock in medieval Europe marked a monumental leap, not just in measuring hours and minutes, but in how society structured itself around the ticking hands. Suddenly, time wasn't just a celestial rhythm. It was a commodity, a resource, a strict ruler of work and rest, commerce and leisure. You can almost hear the faint clank of those early clock gears echoing through the centuries, shaping the very tempo of human life. And then, of course, there's the atomic clock, arguably the pinnacle of timekeeping precision. These marvels don't rely on celestial bodies or swinging pendulums, but on the vibrations of atoms, usually cesium or rubidium. To put it gently, the accuracy here is mind-boggling. Atomic clocks can measure time so precisely that they would lose only about 1 second every few million years. This precision underpins everything from GPS navigation to global communications, silently orchestrating the symphony of modern civilization. Here was a little humorous aside. If you think your watch being a few seconds slow is a nuisance, imagine an atomic clock complaining about a second lost every million years. It's the ultimate example of perfectionism taken to cosmic extremes. Perhaps atomic clocks are the original overachievers, forever ticking away in absolute dedication, while the rest of us occasionally hit the snooze button. Yet, despite these technological triumphs, the question remains: why do we cling so fiercely to these frameworks of time? The debate continues about whether our division of time is truly universal, or if it's more of a cultural construct imposed on a reality that is inherently fluid and relative. After all, Einstein's theories remind us that time can bend and stretch, depending on speed and gravity. So, the neat, linear progression of seconds, minutes, and hours might be more about human psychology than cosmic law, a comforting illusion that helps us navigate the chaos. This reflection leads you to the rhythms of society itself, how calendars and clocks shape our collective experience. Think about the work week, the weekend, holidays, and festivals. These are not dictated by the stars, but by social agreements, traditions, and sometimes just sheer convenience. The 7-day week, for example, doesn't align neatly with lunar or solar cycles, but likely stems from ancient religious practices and cultural exchanges. You might chuckle to realize that your Monday morning blues are part of a millennia-old pattern of human consensus. The legacy of calendar invention is, therefore, not just scientific, but deeply social. It's a framework that organizes not only the movement of planets, but the ebb and flow of human life. Birthdays, anniversaries, deadlines, celebrations. It is a gentle tether that connects you to ancestors who gazed at the sky with wonder and to future generations who will continue to adapt and reinterpret these systems. As you settle deeper into this thought, you might sense the faint aroma of old parchment and ink, like the scent of ancient manuscripts where scribes painstakingly recorded dates and celestial events. You hear the whisper of turning pages, the scratch of quills, and the soft murmur of scholars debating the merits of various calendars. This sensory tapestry reminds you that calendars are living documents, ever-changing, shaped by human hands and minds, reflecting our ongoing dialogue with time. And now, as the night deepens and the world outside grows quiet, you feel the steady pulse of modern life continuing its march, motivated by the same ancient desire to find meaning in the endless unfolding. The glowing screens, the ticking clocks, even the digital beeps of your phone, all echo that timeless human need to impose order on the chaos, to create a shared rhythm that brings comfort and connection. Let's slow down now, letting the steady cadence of these thoughts lull you gently. Imagine the vast expanse of the sky above, dotted with stars that have witnessed the entire saga of timekeeping, silent observers of human ingenuity and yearning. The soft glow of the moon casts a calm light, inviting you to release the day's worries and join the quiet procession of moments slipping softly into the past. You feel the weight of the day dissolve, replaced by a serene awareness of the intricate dance between chaos and order, between the wild cosmos and the human mind's clever inventions. The calendar, the clock, the atomic pulse, they are more than tools. They are legacies, threads in the fabric of our shared existence. And so, as the details of this modern timekeeping legacy fade gently from your senses and the soft echoes of ticking clocks grow quiet, you find yourself drifting, carried on the gentle currents of thought. The worries of today can wait. For now, there is only the soft darkness, the comfortable quiet, and the promise of rest. Sleep now. Sleep well.